So, I've made my review video for Channel Zero, Candle Cove, and boy howdy was it protracted and rambly. So what else is there to say? Well, I debated whether or not I'd delve into this, but let's attempt to explain the Tooth Child, or Tooth Fairy, from Channel Zero. And no, I'm not just going to explain what it is, canonically. I mean, that would be a very short video. It's Eddie Painter. It's just Eddie Painter. This is Eddie Painter. I'm not even going to explore the absurdity of the character as presented. Like, I'm not going to ask how many thousands upon thousands of teeth were acquired and how they got them within like 30 years. No, not going to do that. I'm strictly going to address why the character was created, how it was used, and how this relates to the possible downfall of creepypasta as a genre. Since I'm a fuckstick, I'm going to tackle those points in random order. Creepypasta began as mimetic horror fiction created with two end goals in mind: shocking the reader and making the reader question if the story itself was true. They're urban legends for the digital age. 20 years ago, on this very day, 4 kids just like us were murdered in these very woods, and all that. Stories began with simple enough premises. I found a laptop with gore videos on it, and I think the owner is looking for me. I'm getting Facebook messages from my girlfriend. By the way, she's dead. I remember watching a television show that doesn't exist. Shit like that. However, the goals shifted a bit as creepypasta itself became more widespread and popular. Slender Man, The Rake, Jeff the Killer, Jane the Killer. While we could debate the quality of these characters and their specific content, one thing is very clear. These characters are icons, figureheads. They're visually interesting creatures which bring name and face recognition to the genre, similar to the way Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees are the faces of 80s slasher films. As the creepypasta community grew, it became more focused on these famous faces and less on the stories themselves. It's worth noting just how many creepypastas are about already existing corporate mascots. I mean, granted, I'm guilty of this myself. I mean, let's just admit it right now. It's very difficult to cosplay as an abstract horror concept using items found around the house, so the draw to mascots is understandable. This even led to people within the community itself attempting to represent themselves as creepypasta icons. These days, having an artist draw you as a skinny eccentric in a ridiculous mask seems to be the prerequisite for getting noticed by throngs of emo teens who want a non-threatening brush with watered-down darkness. So how does this relate to Channel Zero's Tooth Child? I mean, you've probably already guessed it by now, but the Tooth Child is more of the soulless corporate branding that creepypasta iconography has become. Chris Straub created Candle Cove, Max Landis owns the right to Candle Cove, the Sci-Fi Channel owns the Tooth Child. This is why the actual story of Candle Cove was shoved aside and stuffed into the first episode of the season. This is the original reason for the skin taker being neutered and relegated to backgrounds and jump scares. The name Candle Cove was just used to lure in the existing fanbase of the story and to get an initial boost in views for the newborn series. Sci-Fi and the showrunners were never actually interested in adapting Candle Cove itself, and instead reworked the story until it became a vehicle solely for their own plan. What is the skin taker? I mean, at his core. Beyond everything else, he's just a skeleton. Sci-Fi and the Channel Zero showrunners couldn't brand a skeleton. As I've cited with pasta narrators, branding is incredibly important if you want to sell a product. The show is a product, narration videos are a product, and everyone needs their Geico gecko to put a recognizable face on the front. The Tooth Child is a mascot, branding, something that can be sold on merchandise without paying Max Landis or crediting Chris Straub. That's why the explanation for the creature was so lacking. It was just tacked on and didn't really matter. Asking where the Tooth Child came from or what it is like asking what the fuck Speedy Alka-Seltzer is and who his parents were. It doesn't matter. Just look at our mascot and try our product. The funny thing is that it worked. I mean, if you look at the discussion surrounding Candle Cove, a great deal of it is concerned with the Tooth Child. I'm not saying it wasn't effective marketing. I'm just saying it was marketing, and only marketing. The sad thing is that, yes, you can brand a skeleton. They could have done any number of things with the skin taker to make him into the eye-catching mascot they wanted. Make him a lime green skeleton with bioluminescent yellow eyes. Have his skeleton be made of the bones of multiple corpses, with an extra skull on each shoulder. I mean, stick a parrot skeleton on his shoulder and fill his ribcage with gold doubloons. Whatever. I'm literally just typing this out as I think of it, and now I'm reading it. This is getting a little too meta, but you get the point. My point is that they could have easily turned Skin Taker into the face of the season, which would have made much more sense and probably wouldn't have screwed the story up quite as much. A lot of the problems came with too much focus on the Tooth Child and its story threads. I mean, look at Skeletor. You're never going to confuse him for another skeleton character. This is obviously Skeletor and no one else. That's good character design. But in the end, they didn't want to make the Skin Taker marketable because Sci-Fi doesn't own it. That kind of petty self-interest kills the quality of a television series, placing money above creative integrity. I mean, it's a tale as old as airwaves. Make no mistake, the show is in trouble because of these decisions. It lost about 50% of its viewers between the pilot episode and the finale, ending with about 500,000 viewers. While the showrunners like to tout its good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and the like, it's important to note that at this time they're basing it on exactly 12 reviews. Only 12 people took the time to post a review about this show. My initial video saying Channel Zero sucks has more likes than Channel Zero itself has reviews, and 100% of mine were positive. I'm not trying to brag on this shit, I'm just saying that's obvious trouble, and I mark it down to the focus on marketing over storytelling and show quality. I don't know. Channel Zero has been a really strange experience. I once looked up a trailer for the show and saw this. Channel Zero, Season 1, Episode 1. Who Let the Dogs Out? Channel Zero, Season 1, Episode 2. Let Your Geek Flag Fly. Channel Zero, Season 1, Episode 2. Where's Waldo? Candle Cove? This is the first step in adapting a genre some of us love and worked hard for, and it seems like the people making the show itself aren't even taking any of it seriously.